Hello, RP people, and welcome back to another episode of Role Playing with Smart People, the podcast where we pretend to know what we're talking about when it comes to all things tabletop. My name is Santa, and I'm glad you can tune in again. Joining me as always, I got Scott W. and Mr. Finder. Say hello, guys.
Howdy ho.
Word up.
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about character progression. Why has XP and level increase become the norm? What are some other options? Is it even really necessary in the end of it? All that and probably more. Oh, and before I forget, probably during this episode, well, I know it's going to be during this episode, Scott W. currently has a Kickstarter up. So, Scott, would you like to say a little bit before we continue?
Yeah, it's so
yeah, I kind of threw that on you, but
yeah, it's fine. I was still thinking about when you said that leveling with XP has become the norm. We'll talk about that statement. But yeah, so Task Force Raven, we launched it on May 4th. So by the time everyone's listening started going, it's going to run 30 days. You'll see it. It's if you search under like Savage Worlds or just Task Force Raven, you'll find it. It's 3 different words, and essentially it's a game that asks the questions of how would special forces operators trained to hunt the occult actually do that and deal with real world situations such as terrorism and counterintelligence units, and then you sprinkle in a little bit of occult mystery. And as we found out in the first test session we did, the answer is you can release a djinn on accident and watch the party get torn apart.
Which was amazing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so for people who think Savage Worlds character, people who like Savage Worlds characters can't die. Hold my beer.
Yeah, no, they definitely can, as I've experienced many a time since started playing with Finder.
Ouch.
Well, you gotta admit, it's kind of true. Even in the other group I'm with you in, they all know that you're going to get us all killed.
It's not me, it's the dice. I have great plans.
So, get us started. So why is XP and level increase kind of the norm? Or is it? Because I think you got something to say about that, Scott.
I mean, it's always been the norm. It hasn't become the norm.
Although I will say that it seems to me that there is a progression away from that now. Because you look at Suede, and Suede no longer uses XP at all. It just says, the GM says, right, you guys level up, and that's when you level up. Now, that's in advance. There is still a concept of levels within Savage Worlds. So you got like your novice, your seasoned, veteran, heroic, and legendary type characters. But even within D&D 5e, there is an option for the DM to just say you guys level up now or take a level. And so it's becoming more narrative focused rather than experience points focused. And I have a theory as to why I think that is.
Yeah.
But I think there is still an aspect of leveling that has always been the norm, to Scott's point.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's how the games began. But yeah, a lot of games, traditional tabletops have begun to move away. And I think a lot of people were just hand-waving experience anyway, right? I know we kind of used to do it at first. And then once you realize that, counting the minuscule amounts of experience points, and you're in the hundreds of thousands, if not, a million in AD&D and second edition, just like, I'm not doing this shit. I'm not done. How about this? We've had 4 adventures and we advanced. And that started with, I think, third edition codified that, it was like, here's the average number of adventures to level up. That's probably where you saw the shift in like Pathfinder in third edition in general and 3.5 and all that. And kind of going forward is like X number of sessions should roughly equal, if you're using the never ever broken CR capacity of encounters to level up a character.
Yeah, no, like I'm trying to think if there's any old school RPGs that I know that didn't use levels. And I'm trying to remember, did Paranoia use levels? I don't think it did in the traditional sense.
I don't believe Paranoia did in the traditional sense. I'd have to look it up again. Boot Hill did not have levels per se either, and I'm trying to remember if even Star Frontiers did.
Yeah, because I think for them it was just what color jumpsuit you got.
Well, yeah,
That's the thing, right? But
you're right. Clearance levels was paranoia.
Yeah,
yeah. So I mean, even games that claim not to have levels still essentially have levels. It's just the matter, you know.
I don't think there's a way to fully get away from levels. Plus, also everyone likes the sense of powering up, right? Like you see, like
Right.
there's a reason why RPG like mechanics in video games are extremely prevalent, where you unlock skills, you unlock this, you unlock that, and it's because people I think generally like the sense of like the idea of becoming powerful in almost like a way that they can codify.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be able to improve. It's the natural state of humanity is we're always improving in something. And some games even have a decline built in to kind of how you behave and how you act. That can happen too in a few games, which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, like maybe with age, because of brain fog and the atrophying of the muscle groups and things like that, it makes sense. But because you didn't do well or whatever, you suddenly, you're not as good a
Hmm.
cultist as you were. It's a little
Well,
weird.
yeah, I see. I would disagree with it if it's because you failed at something. Um, that is one thing that I thought was kind of neat about Powered by the Apocalypse when we were doing that is if you failed, you gain experience because failing is one of the ways that we learn the fastest. Um, but
Yeah.
where I would say if you're going to do a mechanic like that, do it based on how frequently they use that skill. Because I can tell you right now, I used to do database work, and if you ask me to write an SQL query right now, I would not be able to do that because I've not had to do that for a couple of years, and so that knowledge has
Yeah.
completely left me. So I don't know. The fact that you failed, I don't think should penalize it in that way.
Yeah. That's the thing is right. Is like, yeah, even if you try, you should learn that way. Like Rollmaster has, you gain experience for dying, right, and taking wounds. So, which makes sense because you'll learn not to do that shit again.
Well, usually if I'm taking moves, I learn, yeah, let's run away. Okay. As a role player, I don't learn that lesson. As a real human being, I do. I've learned that as a role player, I'm a sadistic SOB. It's like, I want to see how much torture I can submit my character to.
I find I'm the most sadistic when it comes to playing cyberpunk games. uh,
Oh,
yeah, as it turns out, my character, of course, it's not me, has no problem with children running through gunfights, paying homeless people to distract guards, and other shady things. Maybe I've always been a horrible person. I can't tell anymore. But yeah, I don't like the more I kind of think about like the whole concept like another part like reason why I thought this would be kind of an interesting topic because I was looking through a few RPGs that I've recently got. One of them was actually The Spire, which is done by Rowan Rook and Deckard, but also Mecha Monsters by Gallant Knight Games. With the Tiny D6 system, and I was looking at the Tiny D6 system, I was like, oh, this game would be fun, but like, you don't get any things, you don't get any of that. This would be a good filler like RPG, but I don't know if you could play this in the long term. And I started wondering, I was like, why do I kind of wonder why I couldn't play this in a long term? If you got a good campaign going and would you could progress that thing to being a long-term game, but like for some reason in my mind I just looked at it and thought there's no character progression in the traditional sense, so why how could I imagine myself playing this for the long term? But at the end of the day, we're supposed to be creating stories, right? So shouldn't the story progressing be almost enough to actually fill that void of the character, just gaining XP to gain a little bit more strength? I find it's such a weird topic if you think about it, but
Well, I think why is it important for character progression? Because as players, I would get bored if I couldn't improve things that I fail at all the time. You know, if you're telling stories, you want your character to be able to grow. That's one of the things that we read, that when we read a story, the stories that draw me in the most are the ones where the characters actually experience growth in some way. They learn, they improve, even if it's not necessarily in their physical capabilities. Seeing them grow in some ways. I mean, you think about Lord of the Rings and Sam Gamgee, who's just this um, almost like a servant type character, right?
Hmm.
And in my mind, he is probably the true hero. It's not Frodo, it's Sam, because Sam is the one that helped Frodo get to the point where Frodo could actually uh, almost throw the ring away, right? I mean, really, Frodo didn't even throw the ring. Gollum bit the finger off. So, um, but I mean, to me, I think about Sam, and Sam is the fun character in Lord of the Rings because of the character growth that you see from him in the way that he approaches his duty, which was a lot of fun.
Hmm. But that still kind of wraps around if you think about it, where it's like it's more geared towards the story itself. Like I wouldn't say Sam made any massive progress when it comes to like his natural ability to fight or any of those kind of things. He doesn't really necessarily do any of that, even though at the period of time where the Lord of the Rings even happens, I would say it's long enough to have some of those kind of skills progress. But it's all about the character and how the character himself mentally progresses to actually increase to that point. And that's where I'm kind of like stuck with the whole is levels really necessary? Because if you do have a good story and you have a good basis for core mechanics to allow for
You're assuming that everybody wants a story, right? I mean, sometimes I mean, murder hobos don't care about the story.
they care about murder. That's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. That's fair.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, when I was a kid, I didn't play D&D for a story. I played D&D because it was fun to imagine a character going in and killing this monster and taking its treasure. And that was fun. And the more efficiently I could do that, the bigger the monsters I could fight. And there's another thrill from being able to fight a bigger monster and to overcome odds that at the beginning were not so easy to overcome. So I think character progression, whether you call it levels or something else, character progression is important because I mean, you think about the video games nowadays. Even video games have conditioned us to some degree to expect that. In the old Atari adventure game, there was no leveling your character. You were that block with that slashy sword, and you walked around, and that was it. And if you died, you died. And if you advanced to the next level, hey, great for you, but you didn't get any new skills, except for those as a person where I could control that joystick and mash that button a little bit quicker. So it's like the old school video games um, are out of vogue to some degree because there's no progression. It's like you're the same thing and then you die and that's it. And that's not as much fun as being able to see your character advance in some way, whether that's fighting or some other skill. I mean, think about your own experience, Santa, as you learn to edit audio, you're essentially leveling up in real life because your skills are progressing and you get excited about that because you're excited about all the things that you can do now. It's like, oh, hey, we could do this and we could do this. And that's the exciting thing, even for us as people, is being able to advance and to grow and to do better than what we did last year or yesterday even. And so I think progression is something that we as humans, to Scott's point earlier, is something that we expect because that's what we are doing on a daily basis. I'm getting better, or I'm not, and it's no fun when I'm not getting better because then I'm stuck doing the same old crap. I have to sit there and do those jobs that nobody wants to do because I didn't get the skills that I wanted to get the job that I really want, right? And that's no disrespect. I mean, I had fun doing some of those menial jobs, but I wanted more. And so I had to advance. I had to level up myself to some degree.
No, that was actually a really good way to put it. Because yeah, no, damn you with your common making sense kind of bullshit. putting in words
Well,
I understand.
well, too, if you wanted to do something where you didn't like, you could either hybrid it or you could, I guess, uh, maybe obviate or offset, one of the two. Think about gear, right? So using the example of you doing the auto editing, you're getting better, but you're also adding magical treasure to your shit, your new programs, new apps, um, new equipment itself. And so there's some of those games that don't have a leveling up. That might be a way of conquering that too. If you just get better and better equipment, or I don't know. I don't know how that feels. It's just I know that's one way that some of these games do that. Is like, well, I can't make your character stronger, but if you have a girdle of giant strength, that makes you stronger, and and you'll have that for a while. We won't have to worry about you gaining any strength or a die type to one of your
Mhm.
attributes. But yeah, I don't know how much fun that would be for a long
Well,
run.
I was going to just say that I think that's a good conversation to have with your players, because some players may not care so much about leveling up their character. They may have other ideas for ways to improve their character. Like, I got a text from my son for our Coriolis game, and he's like, "Hey, I've been thinking about that Coriolis game, and in the game later, do you think I might be able to enhance my weapon so I can get more damage output on it?" And so it's like he's totally happy with me throwing him a bone to say, "Hey, here's a way that you can improve your weapon. Maybe you tinker with it or whatever." And he's cool with that. Whereas some people want to improve their skills, and maybe somebody else wants to do something different for their character. And so I think there are other ways that we can think about character progression that may fit in with a player's concept of their character. Maybe finding a stronghold would be one person's idea of leveling up, that you don't have to worry about giving them some more power per se for their character, but now they've got this stronghold where they can start accumulating different things that may enhance their abilities later on, which is one thing that I thought was really cool about like Forbidden Lands.
Yeah, what was that beat?
I have no clue. I didn't hear
There
a
was a
beep.
beep.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was like, oh, I thought we lost someone. Yeah, and too, I wonder if this helps tie into the conversation of, I mean, we had the conversation right about you're not a damn elf or you're not a damn dwarf, right? Where
Mhm.
you're. Did we talk about how I don't remember if we talked about how you're playing the character and they can do things that you can't possibly do, right? Because
Yeah.
it's a game. And I think we had that conversation in one of the episodes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds like you're
Mm-hmm.
not a damn dwarf.
Okay, and so when you think about that too, and if you take that idea and you understand that, and you don't want to use a leveling up, but you want to be able to improve equipment and gear in some way, then you might want to think about starting in an advanced position with characters. So, like Task Force Raven, um, we renamed seasoned, but you do start as seasoned. You start with 4 advances. It's not saying you won't improve like normal Savage Worlds, but honestly, and you guys have seen it, you don't really have to advance in Task Force Raven. There's so many other ways to represent that, and maybe acquisition of new skills.
Yeah.
Maybe doing the physical and mental attributes to represent that, and you can really dial it in if you really want to do it that way, because the gear alone will make the difference. I mean, if you had a really solid person who wanted to really dig in and take time and be like, okay, well, this scope adds this bipod adds this, and really dig in. I mean, you can go deep into things like that. And I think that works in probably every genre, right? Because fantasy will use magic, science fiction will use technology. I don't know about Old West. I guess Deadlands can use magic, but standard generic vanilla games like that, I don't know how you would do it, but I mean,
Yeah,
it's doable.
I I think you can do it in multiple different ways. Like even I'm thinking like let's say you're doing like I feel like a shadow run would probably work good for this one, or any kind of a more kind of heisty kind of style game where it's even just like you gaining contacts. So it's like okay, your character has he gotten exponentially better? It's like no, but he now knows more guys to where if he needs some to get something done, he's going to be able to source the right tools for it, or he's going to be able to
Sure.
get the right information. And you could do it through like, contacts. You could also even do it through like how much of like, okay, I'm just going to go to a heist because like that was kind of the thought process I was going through when I was thinking of this episode. You could even do it for it's like, okay, what's your budget for this heist? Okay, well, you're doing a better. You've now gone through a couple of things. Is your character much better? No, you were already a really good thief, but now that your budget's increasing, you're able to go for bigger scores due to the fact that you have a better, you have just the access of better information and better equipment. And I think you could do it in a way. I don't think it would work for all games, but I think you could do it in a sense for that with contacts, budgets, and
Yeah.
those kind of things.
That's oh,
And I've done that in real life in a training session.
no. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish your thought. I'll go after you.
Oh, I was just saying, there was a course I went through called Mirror Image. You can find it on YouTube. It's a way older video. It was down at Blackwater, which they've changed their name for a variety of paralegal and legal reasons. But the course takes, it takes you, and you're not going to gain experience like we're talking about in the game, where I'm not going to level up. But it's just what you said is the core concept of the class is you live like you're a cell of terrorists who've come together, and you learn to do that. You learn to make contacts and how to improvise weaponry and use those tactics to go through role-playing scenarios. And you go higher and higher, and you're making more contacts, you're gaining more money, your reputation is spreading, you're making a black market contact, you're doing all these things, and because the end goal is I guess the end of the quest is the assassination or abduction of a government official. And that's the entire set of the courses, to show you how the opposite side thinks. But yeah, we did just that. We didn't level up ourselves. We were already proficient shooters and everything else that we did. It's just we learned to gather contacts. And so, yeah, your idea is solid. Actually, I was like, oh God, I want to examine maybe an alternative method for Neon Blood.
Well, and what I was going to say is I think that's one thing that I like about Savage Worlds is it encompasses all of those things, right? Because they call them edges, but you have edges like contact where you can get a contact. They have edges like new power, where if I'm a weird scientist, that new power is a new piece of gear that I created. And so it's if you think about leveling up in terms of trappings, which is a huge Savage Worlds concept for a lot of things. I think leveling up can be whatever you want it to be. For the guy that just wants to improve his skills, great, you got you covered. For people that want to improve their stuff, they've got things like trademark weapon, which is one of the coolest edges in my opinion, because it's like, oh, I've got this weapon that is like unique to me, it's special to me, and so therefore I know this weapon like the back of my hand, and I'm more effective with it, and that's cool because it's a way of improving your character without really doing a whole lot. It's just like one little tweak to the core concept, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah, shit, you buy off buy off hindrances, right?
Yeah, exactly. You could do that even. It's like, you know what? I've got this poor hindrance. Let me buy that off, and now I don't have to worry about having cheapo gear anymore for Deadlands type of stuff.
Yeah, I'm not one of the poors. I got elected to Congress, and suddenly I make millions. I don't know how I went on a servant's salary to a multimillionaire. It's like, wow, that's another edge I got for free.
Well, even with that one, you could just say, well, he's just bad with money. He just blows it all the time.
Yeah.
Because what is it?
Did we just prove Savage Worlds is probably one of the best games out there again?
I believe so.
No,
I believe we did.
No.
Especially play Lonkmar. Lonkmar is awesome because they've got the setting rule that if you don't spend your money at the end of your session, you're broke by the next session, regardless.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, it's a setting rule that down to your last tick, and it's like you spend your money or it's gone.
Shit, I need the Savage Worlds box set for that. Damn it.
Is that one already? Is that just the old from the last edition, or is that?
I think it's Explorers Edition. I think it's one of the earlier ones, but
yeah, they're selling or they have for free little update guides on Drive-Thru RPG for a lot of their older settings that they know are the hotness. But I mean, all joking aside, what you just outlined everything, and like I'm trying to think of when I've seen people advance their characters in Savage Worlds. I think I'm maybe I'm wrong, and you guys play more than I do, but I think most people go for advancing their attributes and gaining edges, right? Whatever that means, and or buying off a hindrance. And I've it's not too often I think skills are increased. I think a lot of people have a core set of skills they examine. They usually get them where they want them, and they may advance them once or twice. But yeah, in my experience, it seems like everyone goes for either attributes because of the role they play in a lot of things, or dealing with new edges, which is new powers and trademark weapons and stuff like that.
And I've never actually, in my group, we're actually diverse in all the groups that I play in, because we do have players that like to advance skills, but there is a cap, right? I mean, there's only so far you can advance a skill, and then you're capped out unless you find some
Yeah,
way, magic or whatever else, to take you above that. Attributes are great because they can only be advanced once per rank, so there's a built-in limit there to how fast you can advance your attributes. Um, I have never had a player character, or like a player, buy off a hindrance. All of the people I play with, yeah, all the
oh
people I
really?
play with generally keep their hindrances, because the hindrances to us are one of the fun aspects of the game, because they introduce problems for the rest of the group. So it's
Sure,
kind of fun.
sure.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I've never bought off a hindrance because usually when I pick the hindrances, it helps me create the character of and who they are.
Yeah.
So, yeah. No, I,
I
damn you guys with your logic, and
I mean,
I
I'm just
know
saying.
Savage Worlds might be the greatest.
It just is what it is.
Yeah,
It's a really well done game system, and look
yeah. No,
at the cards.
I was trying to think of things too, but I was just like, oh, I've definitely increased skills before attributes, even though like once you get your attributes, like your skill can't go above it, and if it does, like over your attribute, if it does, it costs double the points. And I was like, I've done that for the sole fact of usually I don't want my character to, what's the best way to put this? I'm going to put it intelligence wise. I don't want my character to be smarter. I just want him to be good at this one thing. So like I don't raise his intelligence because I'm like, no, that just makes him too smart in the RP sense, and I don't want to do that.
No, I'm tracking, and I think that's where a lot of people do the attributes because strength affects your melee damage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Vigor affects your soaks. Spirit affects getting
Yep.
unshaken. Yeah, I was gonna say unshook. I used to
Gets
make
you
fun of people too.
gets you
I played with a
shook.
couple of teachers, and I used to say unshook, and they'd cringe. So I was like, oh, there's a trigger point, so we'll keep doing it. Agility. I mean, yeah, that's kind of an in and out, but it can affect like if you're.
Well,
Well, no, that's like
agility allows you
athletics.
to increase your athletics, shooting, uh, fighting, all that
Yeah,
stuff.
I mean it's a
Easier.
control, but I'm thinking of the three that really affect the game directly without needing a
Yeah.
skill. I think those three key ones, and and spirit used to be considered a dumb stat by people, and I'm not really sure
Yeah.
why. Uh,
Probably because they've never been in a real life fight.
so yeah, I left my spirit at D4. Oh, that's a bold strategy, Kai. Let's see how that works out for you.
Great movie, man.
I just- well, it's gonna ace. It's gonna ace 25% of the time. You're
And
gonna be
fail
shaking
75.
75%. Yes, go with God.
Now, I will say that I have left Spirit at a D4, and there have been reasons for that, but a lot of it also comes down to I know that I can raise it. So that'll typically be like my
Yeah,
first advance that I take, but also as a wild card, I know I've got that D6 that I can fall back on. So it's really not a
yeah.
25% of the time, or it's really not a 75% of the time fail, because that D6 can save your butt a lot of times when you're rolling D4. So
Yeah, because if I make like a rogue or a thief in Savage Worlds for fantasy or whatever, I like to make the kind of the sniveling
yeah,
backstabber. So I'll leave the spirit low on purpose to reflect cowardice, and then a lack of
yeah.
self control. and then advance it slowly over time. But yeah, I don't always. People is I have no mother and no father. I have no brothers and sisters. I answer the highest order, and nothing phases me. Like easy Wolverine. Yeah, you're new and unique. Holy shit.
So, can you guys think of any RPGs that don't have like a kind of a normal kind of progression system? Like I know like D&D has their XP, but you could also do it based off of, just time in the game. You can do that all Savage Worlds is kind of similar to that, but do you have one that's kind of unique to its own that you guys can think of?
Like how it progresses, or that doesn't have progression.
Oh, how it progresses.
Um, like unique. Finder, do you have anything? I mean,
I
Rollmaster.
got one, so
Okay, go.
Rollmaster?
What? Yeah, because Rollmaster, if done by the book, you're not you pre-spend your development points for the next level, and when you advance, those skills go up. And that may have been a RM second edition and a MERP thing, but yeah, you would like pre-spend the points in the skills you wanted to go up by when you advance the next level, which was kind of weird. And then it specified that if you're not actively pursuing it, it was a really weird concept. I kind of can see where they're going with it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's nowadays. It's a pretty old system, and everything you've told me about it, I don't know how I would do playing that game at all. Just from all the shit you've kind of told me about it with all the charts and uh,
I
lots
mean,
and lots of math.
it's right up
I'm
your
just
alley.
maybe I'm just role playing as a smart person. Come on, remember
I know
that.
you love fucking complex ass games, and it's just like you ain't gonna find much more complex than that.
To a certain extent, but yeah, no, I can see. One and it's kind of the one that's been my flavor for the month. Any chance I have to talk about it, I usually do, and that's just the Spire. Um, because there's it's a whole game about kind of being an insurgency, right? And so their progression is how you gain levels is there's three different degrees. There's low, there's medium, and then there's high, and it's all about how much change you've actually caused in the world around you. So
Mm-hmm.
if you've done some change, this is going to affect an entire block, where this block might never be the same because of your actions. You can pick one from the low, and if you did something that might affect, a whole set district, or like one whole a group of people, you did something that's going to change something. It's not going to impact the whole Spire as a whole, but it's going to really impact that one area pretty profoundly. Then you get the medium, and then there's high, which is pretty much just oh shit, the whole Spire is being shaken up by this. And I thought that was a really cool way to do it. And of course, I don't think it's usable in every system, but one where you're literally trying to take back control of the city using, I guess, almost guerrilla warfare and almost insurgency kind of groups. It works really well with the system itself. I don't think you could do it with anything else, but I'm after reading how you progress, I was like, this is just so freaking badass. I love the flavor of it. It fits so well in with the game. And you don't see many games trying to tailor their progressions totally with the actual story itself, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, sure.
And to answer your question
just...
of if I know of any, I'm not aware of any.
It kind of just goes to show how common experience and levels actually are.
Yeah, I mean, if you do a quick search of games without RPGs without progression, you'll find some of the conversation's been had. But you also be careful of a couple of entries because they are very explicit in their feelings about RPGs without character progression.
Oh, a lot of them hate him.
Oh, it's very saucy. Spicy gamer words. Oh boy. I was not ready for that. I was like, oh, that's one way of addressing your concerns, sir.
Yeah, because like
Um,
games with none, the only one I can think of is Fate.
10 candles.
Yeah, 10
Oh
candles.
well, yeah, but your characters can.
Now I don't know about like man, Jenga Tower. Someday I will remember that game.
Oh,
Oh, what's the name of that? I remember.
my God. I think I
It's
have COVID brain fog, so I'm dying here. I know I talk about it all the time, and now I'm like, I don't know what it is.
it's like something. It's only like 4 letters, ain't it?
It is, yeah.
Like
It's
Doom or Fear
no,
or
no,
Dread.
no. Everyone's
Dread.
screaming it. Yeah, I
No,
literally can't
it's
think of it.
Dread, isn't it? Isn't it Dread? Because yeah.
It is Dread. You're right. You're right.
damn it, it's 5 letters.
Now I don't know.
But
I
like,
haven't read Parslings yet, but I'm not
yeah,
finding anything in Parslings that has anything that mentions character progression or advancement. So Parslings may
huh.
be one, and that actually might be a game that you'd be interested in, Scott, because the tagline is "Words are what define me."
Oh,
So I don't know if it's similar to dialect or not, and I don't know if dialect has
I
advancement
don't know. It sounds interesting though.
either.
There was a
What's it called?
game
Have
too.
you read dialect? Does that have advancement, or does that like counter?
It does not because that's not the point of the game. I mean, it's an RPG, it's not even really an RPG to be honest. It's I don't even know what to call it. It's like a card, not even a card building game. It's a thought experiment, really. But yes, definitely not an RPG in the traditional sense. I mean, Magic the Gathering is more of an RPG than Dialect is. Um, there was a game too called Magicians, I want to say, and you learn Korean by playing wizards, learning to cast spells, and the Korean language is the basis for those spells, which is a cool, interesting concept.
Oh, that's neat. I actually saw one recently where it's like in order to cast spells and all that, because like everyone's a magic user, it's actually it's uh, it's ASL.
Oh, that's kind of neat, really.
Yeah,
Huh.
and the person created the whole RPG, all based. I think the Kickstarter. I think it's definitely done by now, but yeah, um, their whole concept was they wanted a way to make a fun RPG, but a way for actually people to learn sign language at the same time.
That's actually
Uh,
really genius because
yeah,
that's a hell of a way to do it.
yeah. One sec.
Shit, now I want to look it up.
I definitely am. You can probably hear the clicky clicky.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's okay. I really want that. But like Call of Cthulhu and basic role playing, when you use a skill successfully, you can mark those skills, and they're gonna increase, and then so that's another one. And then um, Finder, does the One Ring still have its non-level progression?
I'm not sure. I've not read the book, but let me take a quick gander at the table.
Okay, I know they progress, but it was a kind of a different way of
Well,
doing
now I
business.
will say that like Black Void, they have experience points, but those experience points can be used in other ways other than necessarily leveling your character, right? So sometimes you can spend experience points, and this is I've seen this in another system. I'm trying to remember which one it is, where you can use experience points to like, oh, you know what, I need extra cash, so I'm going to spend some experience points to have extra cash. Or um, there
That's
was
cool.
another one where you could use experience points to like re-roll to make a save or whatever to save your bacon, but that prevents you from being able to level up your character in the traditional sense as well. So there are some games out there that
Oh,
allow you to
okay.
use experience points in ways other than advancing your character. Um, but yeah, the One Ring I'm not completely sure about yet.
Yeah, neither am I.
I think was it Numenera also you can use experience points in order to impact the game itself and not just for leveling.
Yeah.
The RPG that actually teaches ASL. It teaches actually ASL and also BSL, which is the British Sign Language.
Oh,
Um,
very cool.
it's
Yeah.
called it's called Over Isle, uh, and
Over
there's
Isle.
actually Over Isle, OVERISLES, and their whole RPG is actually like it's kind of neat because their core game is actually called Inspirals, which that's the one that teaches the British Sign Language. I don't know if
Right?
it's a standalone or not, but oh, it's a campaign setting for Inspirals.
I
Um,
mean, there's a Kickstarter. I'm sorry, now we're taking a Kickstarter right in the middle of the whole thing. It's this is a
oh,
cool concept that I regret missing. Because man,
I only saw it after it already ended, and I kind of wish I saw it beforehand. What was it?
well, they just updated it in May, so
Yeah, I don't think it's launched. Like I think um,
oh no, it's
I don't
launched.
think
They're
they've.
just doing backer fits kits now and stuff.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay.
so yeah, the PDFs went out in April, so it should be coming to regular market hopefully.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it's a cool concept for a game to do something. I keep meaning to learn ASL, and I'm like, okay, and then I get just other stuff, and it's like Jesus.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. It's by a company called Hatchlings.
Yeah, yeah, see that? Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
cool. It's damn neat, actually.
yeah. Actually, in the book itself looks good. If anyone's listening to this right now and they're like, "What the hell are these guys on?" Once you either stop driving or whatever you're doing, just take a look at Inspiriles. Inspiriles. By the way, this is not an ad. We are not getting paid for this.
Yeah, no,
Nobody would pay us to do anything right now.
yeah, it's totally baller. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a very cool concept.
Yeah, I might. No, no, don't do it, Santa. Don't fucking do it.
Don't do it. Don't pre-order it.
I, I, I might. I might. I got two other Kickstarters that I need to do. One of them, of course, Finder sent to me, and although I'm mad at him, I'm also kind of appreciative. I like the
Well, they're out of stock anyway, so
Oh, okay, good. Then there's no way of me getting it. I'm good. But yeah, I would say a game I know that can be played over more than one session um, is Fate, which I know it's not everyone's favorite. I know Scott, you said you're not a huge fan of it in
I
general.
like the idea of Fate. I just think that people started blowing it, and like in the most literal sense of the word, as a fellatio, and it's just like, hey, cool, it's neat, but calm down.
Yeah, and that one I like. It's kind of based on the stories, and you can have like character progression, but it does have to be more thematic, right?
Yeah,
Because like at the end of the day, you are dealing with an archetype, and I think a lot of people, I think the way to do it is like over time, you may not fit the same archetype as you did before, and in that case, you might want to change that, which would change your core rules. Like I remember watching those an actual play with I feel it was on the Critical Role channel, whatever the Geeks and Sundry, I think it is.
yeah.
And they're doing it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like it's kind of what got me to buy the Fate Core book, which I've never actually had to use. Who would have guessed? But and it was like one person was playing as almost kind of like a poison ivy type style, while the other guy was playing as pretty much like a regular guy, but he collected relics, so he had a relic blade and shit like that. And it's those kind of things that really said what his character would do and what he's good at. And I thought, oh, okay, that's cool. And then yeah, they've changed it over. Like there's the Fate Core, but now they're doing accelerated. And also, I hear that beep that you heard, Scott. Are you still hearing that beep?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's okay though.
Yeah.
And I was muted, so it's not me.
No, no, who knows? There's a thunderstorm going on here all of a sudden, so maybe it's doing something weird.
Yeah. Potentially, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways that I think we always we like to talk ourselves among how mechanics can really bleed into the game and the feel and all that. And I feel like this is one area where most people are just it's fine with the status quo.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's can you think of any ways that would be like what's what's a good game to actually say that has a normal progression system? How would you
Dungeons and
actually do it?
Dragons.
Yeah, okay, D&D. How would you do a better progression system than just 1 through 20?
So you could arrange it to where character class actually meant something. I mean, it does mean something because they gain skills and power. They gain new abilities and whatnot, and proficiency bonuses. But that's based by level. So you could take out the level progression and attach progression to the character class. So like instead of a proficiency spread around you, or like this levels are like, I think at fifth level your proficiency bonuses go up, and then whatever the next levels are, you could tie that to like the fighter gains +2 to the combat stuff, and then maybe +1 at third level, +1 more at fifth level, and kind of do that. You could say these skills are going, then you could specify skills at various levels. I don't know if that too narrowly focuses the character because you no longer have choice in how that happens. Or you could say, take +1 to, any skills you're currently proficient with. You could do it that way, provide choice. You could
Yeah.
say gain +1 to any one weapon type, and so that would help out and let you start to focus your character on, like, I use spears, I use swords. So that might be a way of doing it. No different than, spells for your spellcasters.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea with D&D of actually kind of although I think it would be for the system itself, I think it would be maybe a little bit too much of a burden, but doing almost the same thing with a failure kind of boost, where it's like, okay, you failed at this skill 5 times, you gain 1 point in it bonus just because you've learned something. So with that, at first you're like, okay, well, I failed a lot of this, but your guy's going to be progressing to a nominal level. But like, let's say you're a master swordsman, right? Or you're a really good swordsman. The only way that you're going to be able to really challenge your own combat skill is by fighting people of higher caliber in
Yeah.
order to properly do it. And I feel like you could actually, with 5e, you could actually do it really well where it's like, okay, well, he's practiced with the blade for a long time, he's really good, and then all of a sudden you go up against this one swordsman where you keep on, like, and that swordsman's just leagues above you, and yeah, you're getting your ass kicked, but at the same time you're starting to learn again, okay, no, there is definitely people better than me, and it will almost drive your character to kind of improve a little
I
bit.
think that's a cool idea. The struggle that I have with it for D&D is armor class is not purely dependent upon your skill, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I really didn't like about armor class is there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that has nothing to do with anything else. So it's kind of weird.
Well, that and the math of D&D makes any alteration like this just insane. Now, I will say there is a way of doing it. There's a version of 3.30 and 3.5 use this. And fifth edition doesn't really use it, but if everyone was smart, they would do this. It was called oh my god, I can't remember the name of it. Oh my god, it was it'll come to me in a minute. Anyway, you start your character at 6th level and you don't advance. You gain feats as you normally would, and you can gain a feat, or you can increase an attribute or a proficiency to something and go that way. So you're increasing, because 6th to 7th level is really the sweet spot for D20 games. And so that's how that version of the game panned out, and it was probably one of the coolest ways to play, because you're competent. You can still be challenged because you can 6th level characters can fight like up to CR 12 creatures. So the CR 12, as you go up, you're going to really be challenged, but you can still push them. And if you do the right quest and you say, okay, well, we need to kill this CR 20 lich. Okay, cool. Well, we're not going to go at the lich immediately. We're going to have to actually quest, and we're going to have to find, like, artifacts and spells and rituals and all this stuff to help us take this thing on. It just requires a little bit of buy-in.
Kind of reminds me almost of The Witcher, where it's like, yeah, you can go up against these things, but you would have a lot better time if you figure out the monster's weakness first, and have this potion with you, or have this random herb rubbed onto your blade or something like that. I think that would actually be pretty cool. And
I
Yeah.
just want Leroy Jenkins as
I
part of
don't
my group so that we can accomplish anything.
Leroy.
Man, yeah, it's
Although,
called Epic Six. That's the thing. People can Google it. And that's kind
okay.
of when I wrote Bastard is written from that viewpoint of uh, people haven't really caught on to it, but I took that concept of the characters you make are essentially based in fifth edition with a slash to OSR, but they're essentially a sixth level fifth edition character. And that's why it looks the way it does. And they have so many abilities. What it looks like you're starting out. Um, and then your advancements aren't normal advancements either. You get to increase things that you already know or do other little things. And so, yeah, it's how Bastard works out.
Oh yeah, I did we? I forget. Did we play?
Yeah, you got me killed. You got me killed.
Bastards.
Yeah.
Oh, that was
Frickin'
that one. Yeah.
thief.
No, I was thinking. Sorry, I was thinking. I was thinking of the. Yeah, I also
See, and you
destroyed
blame me for getting
another
parties
guy's
killed.
shield.
I mean, yeah.
Well, to be fair, I
That's
survived
what I'm
all those
saying.
times.
I'm beginning to think it's not me so much as it is you.
Nah, I would say it's you. Mostly for my own ego. It's you. Um, God damn it! I was about to say something. My mind's just been fried today. I'm not gonna lie.
I know, me too.
Yeah.
Now I'm even second guessing. Like, was it Bastard? I mean, Jesus.
No, the game I was thinking of was it the Oubliettes and Sorcery? That was the game I was thinking of. Yeah, that one we have never played together. We
No, I
played
never
past.
you guys. Yeah, that was my original fantasy game. Yeah, I've never put you guys through that.
No, and that's what I was trying to remember. Was like, what was it? Yeah,
and that definitely also does not have standard progression.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, I think I have that one too. I should have that in my. Yeah,
you
it's
need to
been
do
a
a
lot.
second edition of that game and update a little bit and make it more compatible the way that flow more like Neon Blood.
Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm so tired right now. All day today, yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to cut this part of the episode just because it's not really no point. But because I'm switching over to evenings starting next week.
Oof.
And my usual bedtime, if I do keep this in, for all you folks out there, and Scott and Finder would probably know by now, is about 9:30, 10 p.m. And I got to be up until 1 in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
And the past 2 days, I've been staying up till about 12:31 in the morning, and my body still wakes me up at about 5:30 in the morning.
Yep.
So I desperately need sleep right now, so my mind's just gone.
Nah, it's all good, man. Yeah, it's tough. We're not meant to work weird hours like that. Our circadian rhythms are just completely destroyed.
Oh yeah, that's another kind of thing that just speak the rest, and I know getting totally off, but like the short rest, long rest in games, I always thought those were funny. How they
well, it's abstract, you know.
It is so abstract. It's just like a long rest in a dungeon where there's orcs and everything around. I'm like, yeah, that should never happen. Even a short rest.
Well, now the truth is, though, in some of the earlier versions of the game, you could not do a rest in a dungeon. You had to actually leave the dungeon to a safe place for you to get rest.
Yeah, that kind of makes more sense. I remember my 5e games way back when, before I found better systems. Taking rests and long rests, like taking at least a short rest in a dungeon where it's just like, oh yeah, we shouldn't have been able to find with the orcs in here. Even though we've killed everyone that we've come across, there's no way that they don't know that somebody's already coming, right? So you'd think they would eventually, especially them being orcs, hunt them out. But yeah. Anyways, so Finder, what
we've learned that we're all really tired and struggling to put a coherent sentence together. Aside from that, leveling is something that I think most games do in one way or another. Whether you want to call it leveling or advancing or progression or whatever, there is some way that characters need to be able to change over time, and how the different systems handle it. Uh, there's different ways that we can do it, with experience points being probably the most prevalent.
Well said. And on that note, folks, I think that's all the time we have for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please let me know. You can email me at rpsmartpeople. Oh, sorry, no, that's Twitter. Wow, I'm even screwing that apart. At rpsmartpeople@gmail.com. And if you hated this episode, let me know on Twitter at rpsmartpeople. We're still a tiny podcast, so please tell your friends, tell your families, tell your dog, tell your cat, whoever you can tell who might enjoy RPGs. Let them know. And yeah, so that we can grow, increase our production, and just overall try and make a better experience for everyone. Have a good time, and see you next week.
Booyakasha.